My female 27 flatmate, female 27, has told my boyfriend, male 31, she's in love with him. In October of last year, I, female 27, moved into my apartment to take the place of a common friend and my new roommate, female 27. We have a nice vibe in the apartment, and we both have similar expectations and habits. So although we aren't friends yet, as in we wouldn't go out for brunch or be each other's plus ones for parties, we are extremely amicable. She seems to be quite normal and level-headed. When the lockdown started, March, my boyfriend, male 31 of 2 years, was staying with his sister and his mother, undergoing chemo, who lived alone, needed someplace to be where she could be cared for. So she moved into his room and he came to stay with us. My housemate was okay, and we had a good talk about ground rules and such, but the apartment is too big for 2 people, and she has a type of granny flat set up in hers. In any case, she provided her unequivocal consent. We 3 got along fine, but we seldom spent a lot of time together. We all work from home and spend the odd evening playing games or doing other things, but we didn't socialize much more than previously. My boyfriend, on the other hand, prepares every night for both of us as a thank you. So we now dined together, and my roommate appeared pleased to be included. It was fantastic. However, my boyfriend took me aside last week and told me that while he was hanging out the laundry in the courtyard, she ambushed him from behind and gave him a huge speech about how she's in love with him, and that while she respects him being with me, she has deep feelings for him, and that she's available if he were single. Oh, and don't tell the OP. She didn't attempt to kiss him, but she did try to take his hand in hers. When he told me this, he seemed nervous and uncomfortable. The mood in the apartment is very uneasy right now, but as far as she knows, he hasn't said anything. She hasn't said anything else to him, but he did note that she had lately touched his arm a couple of times as she walked by, which has really gone under my skin. My BF is also perplexed since he hasn't spent much time with her apart from dinner, and he's never been alone with her. I told our common friend, who was startled, that she'd never done anything like this before, and that she'd never known my flatmate to develop a crush on anybody. I haven't noticed her behaving weird in other ways, and it hasn't altered how she treats me. We are unable to relocate due to a variety of factors such as a virus, a lack of funds, and so on. How am I going to cope with this? Update. It gets a bit intense, so I'll just go over some topics I didn't get to in my initial article first. I have great faith in my lover. Even if I didn't, this flat is, but not gigantic. I know where that adored MF is at all times. Many of you wondered when my flatmate informed me about his confession. He told me a couple of hours later. After we spoke about it, he indicated that he was scared I wouldn't believe him or be furious since he first thought it was a bizarre joke that made him uncomfortable, and he felt rightly weirded out. I agree with the most of you that her persistent touching is, and although some advised he address her personally, I understand being in a scenario where you have little breathing space and someone is SHU. It's not simple, and you might soon become unclear if those few seconds of crossing a border occurred. He isn't on our lease, so he was naturally worried about me and the power dynamic in the home. BC, her room is a mini granny flat. She pays the bigger share. I also don't think it was a hypomanic episode, as others have indicated. I have BP too, and although I understand the love rush, she displayed no other behaviors and never attempted to contact my BF other than the strange touching. I can also see how she couldn't possibly be in love. So, after a stressful few days of trying to avoid her, my BF and I were in the kitchen for breakfast yesterday, with her in the living room. To brush my teeth, I walked to our bathroom. She has an en suite, which is just off the main area. As I stepped back out to get my phone, I saw her moving her hand and forearm up my boyfriend's lower back, where his t-shirt had ridden up a bit. My lover, who hadn't seen me, yelped loudly and lost it. He cried at her to stop, and when they both saw me, he said, "You see what I mean?" This is what I was referring about. I was enraged, full body rage, and I could tell she had realized he had informed me about her confession/behavior and had dashed to her room and closed the door. My boyfriend and I went for a walk to cool down, and he kept apologizing for not being more strong, but he was shook up. Some of you advised me I should face her directly on, which I completely agreed with at the time since I was so upset for him. He said he'd rather give her the chance to do it politely. I loved what you mentioned about the lockdown being mitigating, and after talking with a mutual acquaintance, I was prepared to think that some of it was naivety and imagination gone too far. I was ready to be kind to her. We knocked on her door when we returned with a plan of action, but she didn't respond. We tried many times, but she refused to come out, despite the fact that she was seeing my WhatsApp messages. I was just over it by late afternoon, so I knocked and informed her I was coming in. I sat her down on her bed and softly but firmly told her it was inappropriate, making us uncomfortable, and that she needed to get the heck over it herself if she wanted to continue living with us. She bursts into tears and begins sobbing about how she's so sorry and what a terrible person she is and how she can't believe the strain of lockdown is getting to her, whatever, and I felt awful for her. She began sympathizing, trying to be compassionate, and then she adds, "It's just so unfair that the person I'm in love with has such a wonderful girlfriend." Reader, I vomited up all of my belongings. That's not fair, not at all. I told her that she needed to grow and have some perspective, and that she owed an apology to the family. She started to have a full-blown breakdown, complete with weeping, hiccuping, and runny nose. And then, when I stood up to depart, I saw that my own shirt was hanging on her garment rack. I accepted it and went back to my room to think about it. When my roommate shouted loudly, despite the fact that the door was open till 7 p.m., for attention. I called her mother and informed her that she needed to come pick up my roommate. I utilized our emergency contact list to make the call. It was my first time seeing this woman who rushed in like she was a star, but she had a familiar look on her face when she saw her 27-year-old daughter having a tantrum, so I knew it wasn't a new feature of her personality. When my roommate realized her mother was in the room, she did the same thing as me. After that, they didn't say anything to us, and we just hid in our room until they were gone. My understanding is that she is going to be gone for a long time, but I reached out to remind her that it would be nice if she texted me before she returned. I'm not sure when I'll be able to see her again. According to the lease, it will expire in August, so my boyfriend and I am certain that we will be able to make it work and find another tenant, and if we do not, it will not be long before we will be able to go without her. What do you think the conclusion should be to all of this? My boyfriend said that if she had stolen a garment, she would have been able to steal further stuff. Though I appreciate that some of you may perceive my return to be an invasion of your personal space, I did so in order to check out the clothes rack. Among the items I discovered were a pair of my trousers, a t-shirt, one of my boyfriend's work shirts, a record I own, my charm bracelet from when I was a kid that had been hidden inside my jewelry box, and a sheet of my old antidepressants, and that was just what was on the rack / on display. I'm sure there's more in those drawers than I'm letting on. Even though I'm not sure whether it was the right thing to do, I decided to leave them where they were for the time being since I don't want there to be any doubt about whether or not she stole them. There's no way she'll be able to continue to live here. To be really honest, I hope she receives support. Despite the fact that I'm outraged and violated, as is my BF. I can understand the impact that an untreated mental health illness may have on your behavior, and although this is still terrible, I feel bad for her for having to go through it and lose friends. Notice, neither can I, nor can any of us, for that matter. However, I have a strong suspicion that she suffers from a histrionic personality disorder. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit stories.